Honourable Ministers, members of the press, and people of Ontario. It's my great pleasure today to welcome you to Eclipse Automation, the parent company of newly launched Eclipse Innovations. Eclipse Innovations was born out of the pandemic when we saw the need for homegrown, sustainable, domestic solutions for PPE and other medical supplies in our province and in our country. With our design and manufacturing experience within the medical industry, we knew it was our obligation to step up and find ways to make domestic supply chain for N95 respirators and surgical masks a reality in Canada. We also remain committed to our work on other products and automation systems for medical device that directly support the fight against COVID-19. We don't always have the luxury of time during this crisis. However, we are used to complex challenges, and we've always rose to meet them. Our mask manufacturing site at Eclipse is an example of collaboration between private sector and public sector using forward-thinking programs like Ontario Together to bring innovative local solutions to our community and proudly manufacture high-quality N95 masks right here in Cambridge, Ontario. I would now like to invite Premier Ford to the podium. Thank you.
Well, that's great. Well, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Steve. It's great to be here in beautiful Cambridge with Minister Fedeli, along with our all-star MPPs, Mike Harris, Amy Fee, and Belinda Carahelios. And the hardworking people at Eclipse Automation. They're absolutely incredible. They're all standing around here. You guys are absolute champions, and I thank you. And I want to thank Steve Mai, the president of this amazing company. And when I say amazing, it's just unbelievable what they do here. The work they're doing here is truly impressive. My friends, I just love getting out to visit amazing facilities like this one. And I love hearing from the real people on the ground. And this summer, I'll be crisscrossing the province with our all-star team of ministers and MPPs. We'll be visiting as many businesses and communities as we can, north, south, east, and west. In total, we will cover over 5,000 kilometers, and I can't wait to thank everyone who has stepped up over the past few months. We will showcase our strong local businesses who went the extra mile, whether it was making PPE for our frontline workers, keeping our supply chain strong, or helping those in need. And we will recognize those community leaders, our mayors, our volunteers, our frontline heroes who have gone above and beyond during these unprecedented times. I want to hear directly from the people of Ontario. I want to see firsthand the impact that COVID-19 pandemic has had on our local communities and our local businesses, because we can't stop and we won't stop until every community, every worker is back on their feet. And this tour will be an important opportunity to hear directly from the folks on how we can support them. And yesterday, I announced the details of stage 3 of reopening the province. As more businesses and places reopen, I want to hear directly from them. I want to hear what they need to be successful as we move ahead with rebuilding our province. We all need to work together now to get Ontario back on track. And today, I especially want to thank those businesses who heard the call. Thank you to all those who retooled their businesses, who joined the fight against COVID-19. I always say we have the best and the brightest minds anywhere in the world right here in Ontario, and the folks at Eclipse just proved it. And you just have to look around for the proof, as I said. The folks at Eclipse Automation use state-of-the-art robotics to make custom automated manufacturing equipment for every sector you can think of: life sciences, construction, mining, and transportation. Now they're making N95 masks right here in my hand that our frontline healthcare heroes need. But not only that, they're also making the machines that they make these surgical masks for customers in Canada, the US, Mexico, and Europe. And friends, they're ready to take orders. Thanks to the incredible businesses like this one, Ontario will never, ever again be left at the mercy of other countries and other leaders when it comes to vital PPE and medical equipment. And today, we're incredibly proud to support them with a $1.4 million investment through the Ontario Together Fund. My friends, we can make anything here in Ontario. We have the people, the expertise, the manufacturing might to build anything right here on our soil, right here in the greatest province in the country, Ontario. And that is what Ontario Made is all about. It's about hope. Hope that our province can recover. Hope that we will never be caught short of PPE ever again. Hope that our economy will come back with vengeance, stronger and more prosperous than ever before. And that's why it's now more important than ever to support our local businesses who are creating jobs for our families, friends, and neighbors. So when you're walking down the aisle of your local supermarket, please support your local businesses and factories and buy Ontario Made. Thank you, and God bless the people of Ontario. Now I'll pass it over to Minister Fedeli. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Premier, for your ongoing leadership, and thank you to Eclipse Innovations for hosting us here today. This pandemic has been an extraordinary time, a time that has called for an extraordinary response. The response from business owners, workers, communities, and people from all across Ontario has been incredible. Countless businesses and advanced manufacturing companies have stepped up to manufacture personal protective equipment and other essential supplies. And thanks to those ongoing efforts, we will be prepared now and in the future to spur renewed growth and ensure our economy emerges stronger than ever. Through the Ontario Together portal and the Ontario Together Fund, we have mobilized our province's manufacturing and innovation might. That's why we are so proud to announce today's investment. With our government support, Eclipse will create capacity to manufacture up to 1 million N95 respirators per week and create 17 new full-time jobs here in Cambridge. N95 respirators filter 95% of airborne particles, making it highly effective. And by adding this new capacity, Eclipse will quickly produce these vital respirators and help ensure the safe reopening of our province. The project will also allow Eclipse to develop a range of different mask sizes and styles to ensure optimal fit. Eclipse also has a partnership with Conestoga College for the development of an N95 respirator fit testing software using facial scanning technology. What stands out about this project is Eclipse's quick response to pave the way for domestically produced N95 respirators. As COVID-19 hit, Eclipse forged global partnerships to use their existing design to bring certified, domestically produced N95 respirators to the market. This project will see the rapid design and build of respirator assembly automation systems, allowing companies to reshore PPE production back home right here in Ontario where it belongs. You know, you've heard the Premier. He has said he doesn't ever want to hear about Ontario not having enough PPE again. Well, projects like Eclipse will ensure that we can be more self-sufficient as a province and better prepared for the future. Our entrepreneurs, our innovators, they're the best of the best. They've stepped up with solutions to help us at a critical time. We will continue to prioritize Made in Ontario solutions to ensure a safe reopening and recovery and maintain our place as the economic engine of Canada. Thank you.
We'll go to the phone line for questions now. Just a reminder, it's one question and one follow-up.
Will be from John Fedeli Rayo at CTV News.
Hi, Dominic.
Just wondering if you have anything further to say about NBC bringing American technicians to shoot, switch, and direct the NHL games in Toronto, and that freelancers here are being frozen out. You mentioned yesterday you might look into that. Have you learned anything? And do you think it's right, given that the border is closed, that we should be bringing American workers in to do that kind of work?
Well, no, I believe we have good enough workers here, but I don't control the NHL contract. NHL signed the contract with NBC, and my hands are tied. I wish I could break the contract and let's use Canadian workers. This is about supporting people in Ontario, supporting Canadian workers. But in saying that, unfortunately, I guess the NHL signed with NBC. So we'll work around it, but hopefully it'll allow people to see some good, entertaining hockey. And I was on the phone last night with Jason Kenney and Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland. And I just politely said how we're going to kick the West butt. And we're going to win the Stanley Cup here. So
Follow up.
he didn't agree with me, but that's all right. And by the way, there were two Albertans. Chrystia Freeland's from Alberta too.
Right. But do you agree with Ottawa's decision then to give that exemption to American workers who don't really seem to be essential workers on account?
Well, you know, something, this was thrown on us pretty well last minute, and we're doing everything we can to get the NHL up and moving. Unfortunately, this wasn't in the original plans. We found out late, but now the horse has left the barn. We have to get the NHL moving forward, and it's for a short period.
Next question.
Will be from Paula Duszek at CBC Kitchener-Waterloo. Please go ahead.
Hi,
During
Paula.
COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of parents in Waterloo region and across the province have really been struggling to work while also caring for their kids.
Yeah.
Could you explain to our listeners why you opened so many businesses before having a more definite plan in place for school?
Yeah. So Minister Lecce, we do have a plan to open the schools. We've allowed the boards right across the province, but I want to be very clear. I've talked to so many parents, talked to school trustees, and 90% of them have the same idea that I have. I want kids in school 5 days a week. We don't need to shut the school down on a Wednesday to clean. What they should be doing is cleaning at nighttime and having the kids in class 5 days a week. So that's what I'm really advocating for, and I'll be sitting down talking to the Minister of Education. He has a good plan because we have to plan for everything. God forbid when the flu season hits in September, October, and we get hit again for the second wave, we have to be prepared for all scenarios. The worst plan is not having any plan at all, and at least we have 3 scenarios, but our goal is to get every single child back in the classroom. Minister Lecce made an announcement. We'll have 91% of daycare facilities up and running, but by September, 91% is not good in my books. We need 100%. Because people want to know that their kids are taken care of in a safe environment while they're here. The great folks here that have kids, they want to make sure that their kids are protected in a safe working environment. And that's one thing I will not budge. The safety of our children are the top priority for everyone in Ontario.
Follow up.
So to clarify, you've indicated to boards that the preferred plan would be to have kids in school 5 days a week.
That's great, correct, with heightened protocol and procedures and guidelines, which we're going to have to make sure we protect the kids.
Next question.
Will be from Sean Jeffries at the Canadian Press. Please go ahead.
Hi, Sean.
Good afternoon, Premier. You alluded to preparation for a second wave in schools, but I wanted to ask you about the healthcare system. The Ontario Hospital Association is calling on your government to prepare a plan for the healthcare sector for a potential second wave in the fall. And they say that, as you mentioned, it could coincide with the flu season.
Yep.
And I'm wondering what your government is doing right now to prepare for that possibility.
Well, it's funny you ask. I just got off the call with our health team and some of the best medical minds in the entire country. And that will be rolling out very shortly over the next little while. We have a strong healthcare system, and I want to thank the frontline healthcare workers, the nurses and the docs and everyone. They did an incredible job. So we have a plan that will be rolling out, and we're prepared. We are, as a province, as a people, we are 100 times better, more prepared now in healthcare and PPEs because of great companies like Eclipse and the great folks that work here. We're so much better prepared. But we can never, ever let our guard down. We have to make sure that we're always vigilant and we continue moving forward and making life safe for every single family. And that's my job as Premier. I will protect every single person in this province. I'll do whatever it takes. I will not spare a penny when it comes to protecting the people of this province.
Follow up.
Premier, I want to switch gears back to schools for a second.
Yeah.
Schools and bars, specifically, people over the last 24 hours since the Stage 3 announcement was made have been criticizing your government for being more focused or appearing to be more focused on reopening bars than schools. And I'm wondering how you would respond to that criticism. And how you're planning to prevent any spread of COVID from being generated from these bars that reopen.
It's funny. You're talking to a guy that doesn't even drink, but I like, my buddies go out, guys, gals have a cold beer on the patio. God bless them. It's great, but that's the last thing I'm worried about is opening the bars. What I'm concerned about is the restaurants and the bars, keeping them alive, keeping them afloat, being socially responsible, having a strong plan when they move forward into Stage 3 this weekend. And I truly believe that owners of restaurants and bars are going to be responsible. We've come such a long way. It's not the government that has got us to this point. It's the people of Ontario, the 14.5 million people that have followed the protocols and the procedures that have laid out from our chief medical officers across the province. But I can assure you, the last thing I'm worried about is, worried about the bars. I'm worried about the businesses that own the bars. That's what I'm worried about. But I think they're going to be responsible. People are going to be socially distanced within the bars. Most people, I think in these days, like to go out on a patio opposed to staying inside. But we have to help the restaurants get back on their feet. These poor people, these are family-run businesses. They put everything they've had, every penny they've had to get things moving forward, and give them a little bit to pay their mortgages and put food on their table for their families. And all of a sudden, bang, this COVID comes out and swipes them off their feet. My theory from day one, our family's theory, is to protect the little guy, little gal in these businesses. And that's what I'll always do, is to protect the people.
Next question.
Will be from Ben Epple at 570 News. Please go ahead.
Hi, Ben.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Premier Ford. You mentioned the possibility of a second wave, which, of course, God forbid, but it is possible. And if we do see a significant rise in cases, could we see more restrictions reimposed?
Well, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. Right now, we're doing great as a province. We see the decline in cases. And I always say, I know I've said it before, I'll say it again. They showed me this map of North America with all large jurisdictions like Ontario. And we're ranked number one, way ahead of everyone in North America. And you just have to look to south of the border, our neighbors down there. God bless them. Don't get me wrong. I love the Americans. I don't want them up here right now. After this pandemic, you're welcome to come up, but it's been reckless down there. That's the only way I can describe it. They've been reckless. They move forward too quickly. And we're going right at the right speed. And I'll always listen to health and science over getting pressure from anyone, because you see what happens. 15,000 cases in one day in Florida, 11,000 in Texas. It's staggering.
Follow up.
Yes, and you mentioned, I'm just wondering, is the province coming up with a financial contingency plan to help businesses if that second wave does come, to keep them afloat in case things do shut down?
Well, we'll do whatever it takes to keep businesses moving forward. What I really encourage people to do, which we have, we've had a plan of over $17 billion to help people and businesses already, but whatever it takes to our capacity, because I always say all provinces, not just Ontario, have a certain capacity. We need the Fed's help. The Feds have the printing machine. We don't have the printing machine, and we're working well with them. But what I encourage everyone to do, we do $390 billion of two-way trade with the U.S. If we can change the buying habits of all of us, and I know it's not possible all the time to always buy made in Ontario, made in Canada, but if we change the habits of 1 in 10, that's billions and billions of dollars and thousands, tens of thousands of jobs. And I'm encouraging every manufacturer, I don't care if you're producing cereal, the planes, trains, automobiles, or masks. And Steve's way ahead of the game, Ontario made. When you see that logo, when you see that maple leaf, and everything's being equal, buy it. I used the example of barbecues. I got to give a shout out to Broil King in Waterloo. They're an incredible company. I gave a shout out to Napoleon and Verdi as well. Verdi is a great barbecue company in Brantford. But again, we can manufacture anything here in Ontario. So let's keep it going. We can make the change. These companies have stepped up for us, folks. Now it's time for us to step up for the companies and start buying made in Canada, made in Ontario, greatest country in the world. And I believe that 100%, no doubt.
Last question.
Will be from Christina Tanelia at CP24.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, Premier. So the province has provided some funding to municipalities to help with COVID-19, but the province or the feds have provided a kind of budget bailout yet that Mayor John Tory is seeking. He made it clear today the City of Toronto needs $1.3 billion, or people in Toronto will experience service cuts and tax increases, or both, or both, by the end of the summer. So at this point, Premier, can the people of Toronto anticipate service cuts and tax increases by the end of the summer?
Well, I hope not. And I want to thank Mayor Tory for his comments yesterday. I agree 100%. We need a federal strategy right across the country. We're working very well with the federal government. I'm talking to the Deputy Prime Minister every day almost, and she's a wonderful person, Chrystia Freeland. But as I tell her, you know, I'd rather make no deal than a bad deal. I'm fighting for all 444 municipalities. That's my job as Premier, to protect them. And you know, I want the feds to step up. And before, we're very, very close, by the way, of getting this deal. But if you asked me a week ago, I wouldn't say we're close. It's easy to just wipe your hands and say, okay, you know, give me the money and away you go, and forget about $2 billion or so. Now we're a lot closer. And hopefully by the end of this week, myself and all the other premiers will agree with the deal, because it's not just myself. Scott Moe, the chair of COF, which is an incredible premier out in Saskatchewan, he's the spokesperson per se, but I'm very confident speaking to Scott and the other premiers, Dr. John Horgan, another great premier out in BC, along with Jason Kenney. We feel we're close. But I'm glad, and I want to thank the federal government for their cooperation. They're doing a great job as well.
Follow up.
Thank you for that, Premier.
Thank you.
My final question, so you're aware of these COVID surcharges. Some businesses have been charging $5, $10, $18 because, and you said you're concerned about businesses, and because they have to buy PPEs and increase sanitation. So as the province moves into stage 3 and more businesses reopen, should businesses be charging customers an extra $5, $10, $18, this COVID surcharge for costs they're incurring?
You know something, I don't believe in that increase. They might have to a little bit, but not that much. I'm going to pass it over to the expert, Minister Fedeli. He's taking care of that area.
Thank you, Premier. You know, the Premier was very quick when COVID-19 first hit and put $17 billion into a fund to help families and to help the business community. This is $17 billion that was for direct support for students and seniors, children under 12, and businesses. And he said right at that first day, this is our opening salvo. There'll be more when we know what you need. So the business community right now have all of these provincial taxes and their local property tax that's provincial, all delayed for them to help guide them and to help give them some help. We just put in, between the federal government and the provincial government, $57 million into a digital Main Street program to assist small businesses, especially in the downtowns that have been hardest hit. These are the kind of supports, and we've got a Jobs and Recovery Committee that is fanning out across Ontario electronically and understanding from each and every business, what do you need for the next level of support? So this is all that the province is doing continually, nonstop, working with the federal government, making sure there are no gaps and making sure there are no duplications. And this is the kind of level of support that you've seen in the past from Premier Ford and that you will see in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
That's great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.